Imagine a world where wealth and power are concentrated in the hands of a few, where economies are manipulated, and nations bow to the influence of shadowy figures. For centuries, the Bible's prophecy of Babylon's fall has served as a warning about the dangers of greed, corruption, and unchecked power. Today, some see these warnings reflected in the actions of one man, George Soros. Could his influence on global finance be shaping the end-times economy foretold in the Bible? The prophecy of Babylon's economic collapse, as described in Revelation 18, is chilling in its detail. It speaks of a great city, the center of trade and wealth, brought to ruin in a single hour. Merchants mourn its destruction as their riches vanish, and the world's kings lament the loss of their economic stronghold. The Bible's imagery is vivid, portraying Babylon as a symbol of greed, arrogance, and moral decay. Now, many are asking, could modern finance, shaped by powerful individuals like Soros, be fulfilling this prophecy? George Soros is no stranger to controversy. A billionaire investor and philanthropist, his influence stretches across continents. Through his Open Society foundations, Soros has poured billions into causes ranging from education to human rights. But critics argue that his financial maneuvers have destabilized economies and undermined governments. They point to his role in the 1992 Black Wednesday crisis, when his aggressive currency speculation forced the British pound to devalue, earning him over $1 billion in a single day. To some, Soros represents the very essence of Babylon, a figure whose wealth and power seem untouchable, yet whose actions reverberate across the world. The parallels between Soros's influence and the Bible's warnings about Babylon are striking. Revelation describes merchants who grew rich from her excessive luxuries, and a system that prioritized wealth above all else. Soros's investments in global markets, particularly in currency speculation, have drawn accusations of exploiting economic vulnerabilities for personal gain. Critics argue that his actions have contributed to financial instability, creating a system where the rich grow richer while the poor are left to suffer. But Soros isn't just an investor. He's a symbol of something much larger. His actions highlight the interconnected nature of modern finance, where decisions made by a handful of individuals can ripple across the globe. The Bible warns of an end-times economy where a select few hold power over trade and commerce, controlling the fate of nations. Could Soros's influence be a reflection of this prophecy? The story of Babylon is more than just a tale of greed. It's a warning about the consequences of placing trust in material wealth. Revelation 18:10 describes Babylon's fall as sudden and catastrophic. Woe! Woe to you, great city, you mighty city of Babylon! In 1 hour your doom has come. The imagery is haunting, suggesting that the collapse of this economic powerhouse will leave the world in shock. As Soros and others continue to shape global markets, some wonder if we are on the brink of a similar collapse. The question isn't just about Soros. It's about the system he represents. The global financial system is more interconnected than ever, with economies dependent on markets controlled by a select few. The Bible's prophecy of Babylon warns against the dangers of such a system, where wealth becomes an idol and morality takes a back seat to profit. But as the influence of figures like Soros grows, we must ask, are we witnessing the rise of a modern Babylon destined for the same fate? Picture a marketplace not of goods, but of influence, where fortunes are traded, currencies manipulated, and the fate of nations decided. In Revelation 18, the Bible paints a vivid picture of Babylon as a center of global commerce, its merchants described as the great men of the earth. Today, some see eerie parallels between this prophecy and the actions of financial titans like George Soros. Could the forces shaping our global economy be paving the way for the collapse foretold in the Bible? George Soros is often portrayed as one of the most powerful merchants of our time. His ability to influence markets, currencies, and even governments has earned him both admiration and suspicion. Critics call him a puppet master, orchestrating events from the shadows. His actions during the 1997 Asian financial crisis, where his speculative bets on currencies destabilized entire economies, are seen as a glaring example of the dangers of concentrated financial power. Soros made billions, but the affected nations faced recession, unemployment, and social unrest. The Bible's warnings about Babylon's merchants feel uncannily relevant. Revelation 18:11-13 lists the goods traded in Babylon: gold, silver, precious stones, and even human lives. This isn't just a list of commodities, it's a symbol of a system where everything, even people, has a price. Soros's critics argue that his financial dealings reflect this same mindset, a prioritization of profit over humanity. Whether through currency speculation or funding global initiatives, his actions have often been accused of placing power and wealth above the well-being of ordinary people. But the parallels go deeper than one man's actions. Soros represents a system where a select few wield disproportionate influence over global markets. This system, critics say, mirrors the economic structure of Babylon, a world economy dominated by the rich and powerful, where the suffering of the many feeds the luxuries of the few. In this context, Soros isn't just a participant, he's a symbol of the system itself, a system that Revelation warns will one day collapse under its own weight. The interconnected nature of modern finance makes this prophecy feel more real than ever. A single decision by someone like Soros can ripple through markets, causing currencies to crash and economies to falter. In such a system, wealth becomes concentrated in fewer hands, while the majority are left vulnerable to the whims of the market. This concentration of power, described in the Bible as Babylon's excessive luxuries, feels like a warning for our time. The Bible doesn't just criticize Babylon for its wealth, it condemns its arrogance. Revelation 18:7 quotes Babylon saying, "I sit enthroned as queen. I am not a widow. I will never mourn." This boastful confidence mirrors the attitudes of those who believe their power is unshakable. But the prophecy warns that this confidence is misplaced. In a single hour, Babylon's riches are destroyed, leaving merchants and kings to mourn the loss of their empire. Could modern finance, with its reliance on speculation and its fragile interconnectedness, be heading toward a similar collapse? Soros's defenders argue that his philanthropy proves his intentions are noble. Through his Open Society foundations, he's funded causes like education, healthcare, and human rights. But even these efforts are controversial. Critics allege that his funding often comes with strings attached, influencing political systems and pushing ideological agendas. This duality, philanthropist to some, manipulator to others, only deepens the mystery surrounding his true role in shaping the global economy. But this isn't just about Soros. It's about a system built on exploitation, greed, and unchecked power. The Bible warns that such a system cannot last. Revelation's description of Babylon's fall isn't just about judgment. It's about the inevitable collapse of a system that prioritizes wealth over morality. As Soros and other financial titans continue to shape the world economy, the question remains, are we building a system destined to collapse like Babylon? And when the collapse comes, who will be left to pick up the pieces? Imagine a world where global markets tumble, currencies plummet, and the rich scramble to preserve their wealth while the rest of humanity suffers. In Revelation 18, the Bible describes the sudden and catastrophic fall of Babylon, a city of wealth and excess, brought to ruin in a single hour. Today, as figures like George Soros wield extraordinary influence over the global economy, many are asking, is this prophecy already unfolding? The collapse of Babylon isn't just a biblical metaphor. It's a warning about the fragility of systems built on greed and arrogance. Revelation 18:17 vividly portrays the aftermath. In 1 hour, such great wealth has been brought to ruin. The merchants who profited from Babylon's riches mourn its fall, not out of love, but out of the loss of their fortunes. Critics argue that modern financial systems, shaped by individuals like Soros, are just as vulnerable. Could the interconnected nature of today's economy mean a similar collapse is inevitable? George Soros has long been a controversial figure in global finance. His currency speculations have shaken entire economies, from the British pound to the Thai baht, earning him billions while devastating countless lives. To his critics, Soros isn't just a wealthy investor. He's a symbol of a system where a handful of individuals hold immense power over the economic fate of nations. They warn that such a system mirrors the biblical Babylon, a house of cards waiting for the slightest push to collapse. The Bible's prophecy warns of more than just economic ruin. It speaks of a moral and spiritual collapse, a world consumed by materialism, where wealth becomes an idol. Revelation 18:3 states, "The merchants of the earth grew rich from her excessive luxuries." Today, that description feels disturbingly familiar. Billionaires control vast wealth while inequality grows, and the pursuit of profit often takes precedence over ethics. In such a world, the fall of Babylon isn't just a possibility, it's a reckoning. Modern finance relies on trust, a belief that markets will remain stable, but the global economy is more fragile than it appears. A single decision, like a currency devaluation or stock market crash, can ripple across the world, causing widespread chaos. Soros's role in destabilizing currencies during the 1992 Black Wednesday crisis and the 1997 Asian financial crisis highlights this fragility. These events left nations in turmoil, with millions facing poverty. Critics argue that such actions, driven by profit, reflect the arrogance condemned in Revelation. But the Bible's warnings aren't just about economics, they're about power. Revelation portrays Babylon as a system where wealth and influence are concentrated in the hands of a few. Today, figures like Soros exemplify this concentration of power. His financial maneuvers can shift markets, and his philanthropic initiatives can influence governments and policies. This level of control raises a troubling question. What happens when power is wielded without accountability? Soros's defenders argue that his philanthropy offsets harm caused by his financial activities. Through his Open Society foundations, he has funded initiatives promoting democracy, education, and human rights. But critics allege these efforts often come with hidden agendas, pushing ideological goals that align with Soros's vision. This duality, champion of social causes or architect of chaos, has made Soros a polarizing figure. Yet, the debate over his intentions pales in comparison to what his influence represents. The Bible's depiction of Babylon's fall is a reminder of the consequences of placing faith in wealth and power. Revelation 18:7 captures the arrogance of Babylon. "I sit enthroned as queen. I am not a widow. I will never mourn." But the prophecy warns that such confidence is misplaced. Just as Babylon fell in an instant, so too could the systems that dominate our modern world. Today's economy, shaped by figures like Soros, operates on a knife's edge. Global markets are more interconnected than ever, creating immense opportunities but unprecedented risks. A collapse in one region can trigger a domino effect, bringing down economies across the globe. Critics argue this fragility reflects Babylon's excessive luxuries, a system built not on stability, but on greed. The question isn't whether the collapse will come, it's when. The Bible's prophecy of Babylon's fall is clear. A system built on greed, exploitation, and arrogance cannot stand forever. In Revelation 18:8 we are told, "Her plagues will overtake her in one day, death, mourning, and famine. She will be consumed by fire, for mighty is the Lord God who judges her." As we look at the modern global economy, shaped by figures like George Soros, the parallels are hard to ignore. Could the world be heading toward its own reckoning, one foretold in the pages of Scripture? Soros's influence on global finance is undeniable. He's been called both a visionary and a villain, a philanthropist and a manipulator. Through his investments and his philanthropy, he has reshaped nations, industries, and ideologies. But critics argue that his actions are emblematic of a larger issue, the unchecked power of an elite few over the economic and political fate of billions. This concentration of power reflects the Babylonian system described in Revelation, a world where wealth becomes an idol and morality is sacrificed for profit. Revelation 18:23 delivers one of the most haunting descriptions of Babylon's fall. Your merchants were the world's important people. By your magic spell, all the nations were led astray. This imagery of merchants as the architects of corruption feels eerily relevant in today's world. Global financial systems are so intertwined that the decisions of a single individual or institution can ripple across continents. Soros's financial maneuvers, from the 1992 Black Wednesday crisis to the 1997 Asian financial crash, serve as stark reminders of the fragility of this system. But the prophecy isn't just about economics, it's about judgment. The Bible warns that Babylon's fall will be swift and total, leaving those who place their trust in wealth to face the consequences. Revelation describes merchants, kings, and shipmasters mourning Babylon's destruction, not out of love, but because their source of riches is gone. In today's world, the same could be said of a financial collapse. The elites who profited from the system would mourn their losses, while the poor and vulnerable would bear the brunt of the fallout. Soros, for all his wealth and influence, is just one figure in a much larger narrative. The global economy, with its dependence on speculation and its focus on short-term gains, mirrors the Babylonian system in troubling ways. The Bible's warnings about excessive luxuries and moral decay are not just ancient lessons. They are a call to examine the foundations of our modern world. Are we building a system destined to collapse under the weight of its own greed? The spiritual implications are equally profound. Revelation 18:4 calls on God's people to come out of her, my people, so that you will not share in her sins. This verse is a warning to separate ourselves from systems of corruption and exploitation. But in a world so interconnected, is it even possible to escape? Soros's defenders argue that his philanthropy offsets the harm caused by his financial dealings, but critics question whether good intentions can erase the damage of a system designed to prioritize wealth over humanity. The fall of Babylon isn't just a prophecy about destruction, it's a chance for redemption. The Bible warns against placing faith in wealth and power, reminding us that true security comes from God, not from material riches. As we look at the global economy and the role of figures like Soros, the lessons of Babylon feel more urgent than ever. Humanity faces a choice: continue down a path of greed and exploitation, or seek a more just and equitable system. Before you leave, reflect on what this means for you. The story of Babylon isn't just about ancient times, it's about the choices we make today. Are we complicit in systems that exploit and divide? Or are we working toward a future built on compassion and integrity? Share your thoughts in the comments, subscribe to stay informed, and join the conversation about the connections between prophecy and our modern world. Babylon fell in a single hour. Could our world be next?